Instead of waiting 700 miles to dust your bitch ass with an initial review, I'm just going to slap you with it straight with the ETM RTR from Electro & Co. That little pitter is the best miniature bike that you can buy on the market. Notice I didn't say the best electric pitter because I've ridden, been on gas pit bikes 2 and 4 stroke, and this little bent subframe having son of a bitch superior in pretty much every way. Let's get that Red Bull can out of the way. You don't get paid by them. Red Bull, it's for the athletes, not the creators. We've heard that before. Switch it for me, sweetheart. As with all initial reviews of bikes on this channel, past, present, and future, it is going to be broken into timestamps or chapters, which is reflected in the description and on the timeline of the video. So if you want to jump around, you may do so. If you are in the market for a ETM RTR or the Lite, whole section going over the differences and my opinion on the two, I strongly recommend hanging out for the whole video. It is going to stuff you with the most amount of information possible so you can make an educated decision before you blow $3,000 on this freaky deaky bike. A quick disclaimer to my audience, this bike was not sent for review. I did pay, popping up on screen here, my receipt. I did get a 7th percentile military discount attached to my account, which any of y'all active duty veterans, I believe that also extends to EMTs, firefighters, maybe even law enforcement, dangerous job type mother truckers, probably not truckers, but you do have to email Electro & Co. and they will email you back. They're very quick, very responsive, do a quick verification process, i.e. send them a little picture of your military ID. It gets attached to your account permanently, so all future purchases, whether that's a whole bike or just upgrade parts, does get that military discount. Does it stack with other discounts like your Humble 5 discount code in the description below? So as far as the bike buying process, it is incredibly smooth in comparison to a lot of the other e-rippers out there, like the E-Ride, the Talaria, the Throne. A lot of these have third-party vendors, so you're trying to figure out, where do I buy this thing? Rev Rides, Luna Cycles, Ronster Rides. With the ETM RTR, there's pretty much 2 places that you're gonna buy it. From Electro & Co. or from Ronster Rides. The only reason you would get it from Ronster Rides is if you want to support Sir Ronster as a creator. Cool, nothing wrong with that. Or if you want the red plastics and gold forks, as that is exclusive to his brand. Keep in mind you can buy red plastics from the Electro & Co. website, but the gold forks, that's his thing. And my opinion on that, cosmetically, if you do run white plastics, I actually think the silver forks look better. But if you run any of the other colors, I do think the gold forks look better. Just a personal opinion. So that alleviates a lot of stress or worry like I had with the E-Ride, where I almost got freaking scammed because the first sponsored ad on Google when I typed in, hey, I want to buy an E-Ride, was an absolute fuck out of my way, bro. It's gonna piss me up and down the block. Pretend there's not a little cord right there. So the biggest concern or time-consuming piece of the puzzle when you're going to buy an electric trail machine ready to rip, or ETM RTR, is going to be if you pop for the OG full-fledged version or the Lite edition for $1,000 cheaper. Popping up on screen here is a little table or chart with some tech specs from the manufacturer. There are 2 fields or camps that I would strongly recommend the Lite to. The first one is if you are a child or smaller rider, even if you're an adult, but you're maybe a smaller bodied adult, you're like 5'6", 150 pounds or something, the Lite might be good for you. If you've got one of those big American bodies that the ladies slobber knock over, you're probably going to want to get the OG RTR because it does have stiffer suspension. It says comfort tuned suspension for the Lite, which is a marketing way of saying soft. It's dampened very softly for a light rider, and it is non-adjustable, unlike the OG RTR, which does have clickers on the top and bottom of the fork, as well as 2 adjustments on the rear monoshock, and they do make a tremendous difference, especially if you go off the beaten path. Or if you do road riding, but you're 180 pounds or more, or if you plan on getting either one of the upgraded battery packs, as they do add weight to the front of the bike, and it will change the handling characteristics and how the bike bounces underneath you. The second camp I would recommend the Lite to is if you plan on doing a full-blown build, and I do mean a full-blown build, motor, controller, and battery, because the OG comes with a 72-volt battery right out of the box that really doesn't even need an upgrade. You have the touring pack and the mod pack, which will give you benefits of range, but the stock 25 amp battery in the OG is great. But you cannot take the 72 volt replacement battery from the regular RTR or the upgrade battery packs and drop those into the Lite, because it is also a different controller tuned for 5 kilowatts of power. Along those lines, it does say there's a 10 mile an hour difference in top speed, but it does also say there is a 30% torque difference, which is going to make a bigger difference the heavier you are, the hotter that motor gets, and the steeper of an incline you're trying to climb. Having said that, I don't think penny pinching or being like, oh, I gotta save up an extra month to get the RTR over the Lite makes sense. If this is just a bike that you want to get and rip on it, get the full-blown RTR. But if you want to do a full-blown build and you plan on getting the True Moto controller and a 72 volt battery, the new motor, keep in mind we're getting in the thousands of dollars of upgrade parts here, then get the Lite. Otherwise, I wholeheartedly and solely scream from the skies to get the OG version. It comes with a 72 volt battery, adjustable suspension, stronger acceleration, 10 miles an hour more top speed, which that doesn't matter for shit because I hardly ever go over 45 miles an hour on the mini pitter, and it just feels scary going that fast on a little bike. But the acceleration up to that top speed is gonna be different between 5 and 8 kilowatts, and you don't need to ride the Lite and the OG to know that. It's just a scientific fact.
That is a scientific fact,
Bitch. If you're gonna leave all the decals on, the OG does look better than the Lite. Having said everything I just did, I'm gonna put a period at the end of the sentence and caveat it by saying that the Lite obviously offers a tremendous value at $1,000 less. And if you are a light adult, a child, don't give a shit about adjustable suspension, are fine with the lower power and 10 miles lower range, then the Lite might be what you're looking at. Everybody else, RTR gang, full-blown OG one for $3,000. Which, by the way, before the tariffs, the import duties and all that shit, when these bikes first came out, they were promotionally available for $2,700. The OG 72 volt RTR. Damn, I wish it was still that cheap. I paid more than that even with my military discount. The unboxing and assembly process. The bike is packaged very nicely in this box, which is clearly labeled that it is something that people would want to steal off your porch. So make sure that you bring that sucker inside. You can sign for signature-less delivery, or pre-sign, I should say. So you do not need to be home or present. They will drop that big ass pallet on the front of your house. However, the battery gets delivered separately. And for me, the battery got delivered the next day. So I assembled a bike that's just sitting there like a paperweight that there's no battery. Most e-bikes / e-motos ship with the battery. The E-Ride 3.0 did, and the battery you do need to be present for. I could not pre-sign delivery from UPS, so I needed to be home, and they were outside the delivery window by 7 hours. If I had a regular 9-to-5 job like I used to, like a lot of y'all probably do, I would have probably had to have taken time off work, sucked my boss under the desk to explain why I'm not fucking coming in. Well, you don't have to do that. I don't know what kind of job you have where that's a step that's involved for requesting time off. Point being, delivery was on 2 separate days, and then the assembly process of the bike is not the smoothest because you do have to install the rear monoshock. There's a little metal bar that is a temporary placeholder. You put the monoshock in, and in order to do that, you will need a bike stand or a bucket or something to put the bike up on so you can have the swing arm freely hanging down. The front tire's off. You'll need to lubricate the axle with the pre-packaged grease, and then you have to, this is a silly step in my opinion, you have to move the front brake caliper about 2 inches. How much shipping room is saved inside of the box by having the front brake caliper in the shipping position? The bars will need to be mounted and the display to that. Overall assembly isn't too big of a pain in the ass, but not as smooth as something like the E-Ride 3.0. As for cosmetics, this has got to be one of the slickest looking bikes out there, not just in its size, but in the e-moto market. This is a great looking electric dirt bike in my opinion. Looks a lot like a mini Stark Varg. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I've heard a lot of creators tiptoe around that. The plastics look like a Varg. I think the bike looks a lot more official and ready to fuck up a motocross track and less like a child's toy if you do remove all of the stock decals. There are graphic kits that you can buy from Electro & Co website. I'm not crazy on any of those designs, to be honest, but you could also have custom graphics made by like an Etsy creator or something. And they do also sell replacement plastics, so if they get scratched, cracked, or you just want to change up the colorway, you can do that. The mint color, which I believe is the Baja Blast themed colorway of the YouTuber Logan Taylor, that color actually looks super fucking sick. If I were to replace the plastics, it would be that color, but the white is the best looking colorway in my personal opinion, especially when you take off all the decals. It looks nasty. As for the comfort / ergonomics Ergonomics. It is a pit bike. It is a tiny mini bike, a little bike. However, I'm 5'11 and a half. A couple of the other reviewers that have parked their bony buns on this, for example, the Talaria Boys review, that brethren is like 6'3", and he fits that bike just fine. The ergonomics are quite upright. You're not going to be hunched over whatsoever. The rider triangle or the ergonomics, the riding position, are very upright. I do strongly recommend the high-rise bars if you're over like 5'8" and plan on doing any kind of standing riding. Even with the high-rise bars, it puts a lot of shoulder pressure and just doesn't feel comfortable, for me at least, to do standing riding, so I'm sitting like 95% of the time on my RTR. Having said that, the high-rise bars look and feel very good. That is a recommended must-have upgrade. Another one is going to be the chain. If I don't mention it later, this does ship with a stock Razor toy-ass, bicycle-looking-ass, weak-ass, shouldn't be on this bike-ass chain, which can be upgraded or replaced for $40, but this should be a standard part on the RTR. If it's not on the Lite, the full-blown RTR should have the mod motor and the upgraded chain pre-installed. Why the mod motor? Because if you live in a hot state like Florida, the bike will cut out on you just from general riding. Also, that would help differentiate the two models even further, because there really isn't that big of differences, but if you were to add the mod motor and the upgraded chain, that might make the OG RTR seem a little more tasty, even though it is the more decadent treat. The stock knobbies have a shitload of bite in the dirt where you can get over on the sidewall and it's not going to wash out on you, but there is a big problem with these stock tires, and that is the fact that they're small. You're on a pit bike. I had a very painful, pretty serious 25 mile an hour, no brakes involved because I didn't know it was about to happen, accident on my pit bike that actually bent the subframe, rendered the motor fucked up and not working. It rode me back home. Then the next day, the motor stopped working. I don't think it was just the impact of the crash, but I had been running the bike pretty hot all day, so the combination of that and the impact of the crash might have done it in, or I might have just got a somewhat weaker motor right out of the gate. You know, that silicon lottery where electronic parts are not created equal sometimes. Either way, I've been in talks, cahoots with Electro & Co., and we have found two routes or ways forward, and I chose the one that requires me pulling out my wallet but making the bike faster. More on that in the next video. Because you're on pit bike tires, if you were to hit something like a stealth rain rut or a hidden rock or something, there's a good chance you get ejected over the handlebars. If you're on an e-moto like a Suron, Talaria, E-Ride, or definitely a bigger full-size e-moto like a Ultra Bee or a Storm Bee, you would just roll over that shit. I did not. I got rolled and had to go to the urgent care. Moving on from that stupid, silly, shitty life event. The tires look menacing. They're real dirt bike knobbies. They perform like them. They look like them. I will say they wear pretty fast for road riding, but there are luckily two very good options on the Electro & Co. website, that being the 12-inch Supermotos and the 14-inch street wheels, which are also Supermotos, which I have picked up and will be installing in the near future. And that will make it to where I can hit little dips without getting blasted off the front of the handlebars quite as easily. It's still a pit bike. You have to be looking at the terrain. As for suspension, the Lite, as we mentioned, has comfort tuned non-adjustable suspension, so it's soft and non-adjustable. But the original full-blown 72 volt RTR does have compression and rebound clicker on the top and bottom of the forks. Along those lines, these forks are super strong. I'm kind of surprised that the forks didn't get bent or messed up in that accident that I had. The forks are incredibly strong and durable. Also, for a 180-pound rider, they feel sprung very nicely. Do check your clickers, because Pat Outdoors mentioned in his review that his clickers were not set correctly, so make sure you double check yours. Mine were good, but check all of them. Along those lines, there is a couple of suspension upgrades from Electro & Co. There is a race kit which drops at 1 inch. I would not recommend that unless you're racing on a smoothed out motocross track. The regular suspension upgrade, Connor G did a really good video on it that pretty much sold me on it. It's a part that I probably will be upgrading down the road. But in the meantime, the stock suspension, being the rear monoshock and the front forks, feel and look good. It's great suspension. It doesn't need an upgrade. I'm probably going to get the rear shock. There's also stiffer front fork springs if you're a heavy rider or you're jumping this thing. As for the brakes, this is an interesting topic. You do need to bed them in. The first, I don't know, 20, 30 miles on the bike, I was thinking, wow, these brakes suck a fat meat. But then the butcher closed shop. Once the paths melded to the rotors, got bedded or whatever, the brakes are actually pretty decent, but only while you're on the tiny 12-inch tires. When you do upgrade to the 14-inch street wheels or the big wheel kit, substantial set of dirt bike knobbies, you do lose braking power because you have more rolling mass. It's just heavier. It's more for the brakes to stop, and you do feel that. So you're losing braking power, and I do recommend upgrading the brakes once you do get bigger wheels and tires. But for the stock bike, I do think the stock brakes work perfectly once bedded and broken in. There's also adjustment on the levers, the swing, how far they throw out. The manufacturer does recommend having a little bit of dead end or take up to not have the rotors rubbing. You will notice by the big tubes and the cream in the reservoirs that it is DOT fluid brakes, the Department of Transportation, not that mineral oil fluid of lesser brakes. Brake feel is good. It is a strong enough rear brake to lock the rear wheel and to stop you from looping out in a wheelie. The front brake definitely stop you quickly. Brakes are good, not great, but will require an upgrade whenever you do get bigger wheels and tires. The screen is incredibly bright and vibrant. I wish you could adjust the brightness. There is a way to adjust between miles per hour and kilometers per hour with the two rubber nippled buttons in the back. I don't know how to do that, but luckily mine was defaulted to miles per hour, which is region specific for me here in North America. You do get an accurate speedometer. E-Ride, take notes with your 3 to 7 mile an hour inaccurate speedometer. The RTR has an accurate speedometer. It has a battery gauge, which does not take into account battery sag, which means you need to turn the bike off and then back on to get an accurate battery rating of what you're at, because it will read the lowest possible voltage after you've been sucking, sagging, ripping, zipping. Turn the bike off, turn it back on, and you'll see it jump up about 10 percentile. It does also have a gear switch indicator, which will be 1, 2, or sport, which does match the mode selector, and you will have errors such as motor, controller. The controller's reading that there's something wrong. You will notice I swapped the metal bracket on the back of the screen to be mountable in front of the handlebars, which if you do get the high-rise bars, pretty much have to do this because the crossbar section, stock positioning of the screen, which is in front of the handlebars, isn't very viewable. As for the controls, it is very simplistic, very minimalistic, everything you need and absolutely nothing you don't. There is no tilt sensor, there is no brake sensor, there is no kickstand sensor. There is 3 riding modes. 1, you'll probably never use that when you're letting somebody new ride your bike. 2 is actually still pretty peppy and great if you're trying to save battery. Sport is where I stay pretty much exclusively because the throttle control is smooth enough to where you can still modulate it and take off nice and smooth, but you can also grab a handful and rip. But along those lines, there is a little bit of a dead zone, or it feels like it's a little laggy, a little slow to accelerate in the first quarter of the twist, but that is remedied with the mod motor, where you get heaps of low end torque right off the line and a much more responsive, twitchy feeling throttle. If you do get the $150 headlight kit from Electro & Co., which I recommend if you're going to be riding at night, you do get controls for that on the left handlebar. You have an on and off key switch, so no middle position for accessory or anything. You have a charge port on the right hand side. You can also remove the battery and charge it outside of the bike. The only reason you would really want to do that is if you have a second battery charged up and hot swappable. Otherwise, just charge it in the bike. Removing the seat happens very quick and easy. You pull on this little rope, or cable I should say, pops up the back of the seat, and then you can remove the battery, which will take about 22 pounds out of the bike, making it easier to lift into the back of a truck or SUV. The bike does come with 2 keys, and I guess I'll put this in the control section. The stock kickstand is phenomenal. It's such a small thing, but it's something that you interact with a lot. I hated the E-Ride 3.0 stock kickstand, ended up replacing it with an adjustable one because it was too tall, so if you're on any kind of uneven terrain, you want to park off-road, the bike would just tip over. You know what else works perfectly is the Powertrain, that being the motor, controller, and battery. You do have a 72 volt, 25 amp hour battery right out of the box, upgradable to 35 with the mod pack or 45 with the touring pack, which is always out of stock. I haven't seen that touring pack in stock in a long time, just like the universal length upgraded chain. When is that going to be back in stock? The 3 components that make an electric ripper go are all pretty reasonably priced on this, so if you need to replace or want to upgrade the battery, controller, or motor, it's all available on the Electro & Co website, and they're usually running some kind of promotion or sale. The 8 kilowatt motor has a phenomenal sound to it. It screams like a freaking banshee in the high end.
Crazy.
It's a little bit mushy, laggy on the low end. The mod motor does away with that deficiency. And it's not the low end of the bike that's weak. It's the first quarter twist of the throttle. It's like the tune on the throttle is a little bit laggy, but once you just, if you're to take off, you can just get a handful. Oh yeah, she'll pull for you. She'll spin that back tire on you. The bike is honestly belligerently fast for a stock, tiny electric pit bike. I'd absolutely recommend the mod motor upgrade, not only because it's only $350, which for a drop-in plug-and-play motor that doesn't require a controller is very reasonable, and it makes a big difference. Top speed is the same, but you get a 30 degrees Celsius higher operating temperature, so if you live in a hot state or you're racing this thing, that's almost a must-have. And if you want an even higher operating temperature, you can send in your controller for a tune, and they raise that thermal limit even higher. As far as the controller, there is going to be two True Moto options available in the near future. The insane one being the Noisy Cricket, which gives you a really slick interface and also control of each one of the 3 rider modes. So you could have it to where you have strong regen braking in mode 1, and then in mode sport, it goes sicko with a bunch of power. And this is going to segue me or roll me into the next segment, which is aftermarket support, and directly from the manufacturer themselves. Electro & Co. offers a shitload of upgrades. Pretty much every part or component can be hopped up on this bike. The motor, the controller, the battery, the suspension. The brakes are not available through the manufacturer. There are third-party aftermarket options available. Along those lines, like I mentioned during the brake segment, when you get bigger wheels and tires, whether it's the big wheel kit or the street supermotos, you should upgrade the brakes. The warranty policy is not the best periodic time frame wise. Popping up on screen here, they give you a time frame where you get a discount on replacement parts. 6 months to beat the piss out of your RTR, or to, you know what I mean, find manufacturing defects or hope that stuff breaks in the first 6 months and you can get it replaced. That's really short. Try not to break shit if you don't have to. But as far as the quality control reputation and the build quality of the bike, Electro & Co. has a phenomenal reputation as they have been the go-to company for adults wanting to soup up little toys from Razor to go belligerently fast. But now that they offer their own in-house ready-to-rip bike, every part or component on it, everything from the foot pegs to the controller, is in-house Electro & Co. You'll either see their logo stamped on it, or it won't have any logo, but you just trust and know it came from them. And along those lines, there is a full replacement part catalog. So if anything breaks, you know where to get it from, which is good, because with a lot of the little generic scooters you might buy on Amazon, if something breaks, you need to get a whole new scooter. You can't buy an individual replacement part. And the build quality of this bike is phenomenal. The frame, the subframe, those forks, like I thought, they would be bent to shit after my whoopsie-daisy. The bike's a little tank. It's a little unit. Speaking of which, I would recommend that you do pick up one of your own units and you get to zipping and ripping on that sucker. And if you are going to pick up a ready-to-run bike or parts from Electro & Co., do check out my exclusive discount code down there in the description below, Humble5. And the verdict is quite simple. I said it in the intro and I'm gonna fucking say it one more again. It is the best electric zipper McRipper in the price point that you can buy. The only other thing you can get in the price point is a Talaria XXX, not the XXX Pro, but the OG XXX from 2 years ago, which was also a revision of the XXX. The one that comes with supermotos on it. I see that on sale for around $2,900 a lot. I would take the RTR over that. It's faster, it has about the same aftermarket support, but styling, portability, and sexiness, I would just take the RTR. But if you're looking at the other electric pit bikes, like the RAR Mantis Mini, fuck off. The E-Ride Pro Mini, I was looking at that one kind of seriously. That only has 6 kilowatts of peak power, not 8. And as cool as it would be to have a miniature version of my 3.0 sitting right next to it, and I still might pick up one of those for review and riding purposes down the road, the best electric pit bike, nay, the best pit bike you can buy right now would be the ETM RTR. That's a big old endorsement. I didn't get paid to say that. Spent a lot of my personal money on the bike, and I went to urgent care crashing on the bike, and I'm still raving about this son of a bee. It's a good bike. Drop in the comments section below what you think of this review. Did it do it for you? Or should I just get off of YouTube? Delete the channel, delete the other one as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.